Hey there, it's Mr. Tush over at Global, and we are going to do the name project. And the name project is your first big project in Scratch. It's kind of fun, and I'm assuming you've already followed the directions on this part where you open up Scratch and you set up an account using your personal email, and you've taken care of your sound concerns, and you've wandered around a little bit. And I want you next to load the name project, and you've done that already. So I'm assuming that's ready to rock and roll. Now we're going to proceed to figure out how we're going to do building your name and sprites. And I can't do it because everybody who's watching this video has their own name, and you're going to do your own name in your own way. But let's take a look at what the requirements are. It says build your name and sprites. You're going to have a separate sprite for each letter of your name. Well, let's take a look at what sprites are. You see, we have 4 letters here, C, A, I, and W, and actually it's an M, so C, A, M, I, and it's pretty much chosen because it's unusual, and your name may have 4, it may have 8 or 9 or 10 letters, and whatever that is fine. Each of these is a sprite. In Scratch, you have a bunch of sprites, and what Scratch does is Scratch programs the different sprites. It's not that big a deal. So, for example, if I run this, I have the C here, the C sprite, and if I click it to go, take a look at this sprite, see right here, when I click the green, it does something called a fisheye effect. How do I know that? Because this says fisheye. What if I click over here to the A? I click on this, and it changes color effect by 25. I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what it's doing. I click on this M, and it has this thing that says forever turn 15 degrees. So forever it's going to keep spinning on this 15 degrees. Okay. And then over here I have this I, and it says forever move 10 steps, and if it's on the edge, bounce. So watch this. Boing, and then boing, and then boing, and it just goes back and forth. As a matter of fact, when I go up here, if I click the green, it actually goes around and around and around and around, and it just keeps doing that over and over again. Now, where do I get sources for each of these? Well, each of these sprites has its own program. You'll notice there's actually 4 different programs, and I go over to here to switch between the different programs. Then over here, I have the blocks. That's because Sprite uses something called the Blockly language. And if I want to change how something moves, I use the motion blocks. If I want to go over to how something looks, I change the looks blocks. If I want to go over to sound, this will give me different sounds. For example, if I wanted to start a sound called pop, I can have it pop every time it's clicked. So now that's going to keep clicking. I turn that off because we don't need that noise, and I'm going to get rid of this because we really don't need it, but you get the general idea. I could play with sound. The different events right now, I'm using the most common one, when green is clicked. Events say when you click the green flag, or when something else happens, like when you hit a certain button on the keyboard, you can make different things happen. Control allows you to do things like loops and repeats and things like that. Believe me, we're going to get into that later on. It does have some sensors, so it can wait for things, and you can wait for certain input. It does have operators, which allow us to do all kinds of funky things with what's going on. We'll even get to advanced things like variables, and you can even build custom blocks. But that's way down the road. Today you have a fairly simple project, and let's look at what that is. You have to build your name. You're going to have to build a separate sprite for each letter of a name. How do I get more sprites? Well, let's take a look at that. Over here where you see where it says sprites, see this thing down here? It says choose a sprite. If I pick that, I get the sprites window. Now these are all the different sprites that are built in. This is the entire selection, and up here I can pick different things. Well, I'm trying to pick my name, so I'm going to pick letters. I have 3 complete alphabets, and these are the same 3 alphabets that they used, and you can pick from these and make all kinds of changes to the alphabets that you use. And how am I going to change it? Well, I'm going to change it by changing their costume. So if I go over here to the C sprite, it has 1 costume. But if I go to some of these others, the costumes are actually edited. And this person, for example, made a big custom costume out of this. They built their own specific sprite by using a paintbrush. So you can play with the costumes to change how something looks. You can use sound to add sound to what a sprite does. So I can change my sprites there. I can also change my backdrop. So if I wanted all of this happening inside of a basketball court, I could set all of this to happen inside of a basketball court. So now the same thing's happening on a basketball court. These are all the different things that you can do to make Sprite work for you. Have a little bit of fun. What we're looking for is separate sprite for each letter of your name, 3 different behaviors, moving around, bouncing, whatever. All the letters have some kind of a behavior. None of them just sit there. They use the when green flag clicked block so that every single one of them has to do something when the green flag is clicked. So you've got that going on when green flag clicks. So when I click this green flag, the whole thing's going to go. And then I'm going to use a forever block, and you'll see that one of them already uses a forever block. Actually, they all do. And the forever block is just to make sure that whatever happens, it keeps happening. So if I had JOHN in here, that whatever behaviors I gave it, it'll just keep going forever. And then finally, for extra credit, and you'll notice it works this way, the game reinitializes itself by using, and I'll tell you what it uses, is it uses clear sound effects, stop all sounds. You have different clear graphics effects. You have all kinds of clear effects and go-tos so that it will always reset itself every time you restart. Hit the green flag, goes back to kind of a start position. So that's pretty straightforward. Hope that's pretty helpful, and good luck. Good poke around and make it happen.